Hi there everyone, it's Lucy here at Franknut Sewing Machines. I'm the shop manager, and we're going to be going through in a bit more detail, as you've asked, with the Juki NX7 Kiri, or however we pronounce that bit. But I've been having a play this morning. It's a beautiful machine, and there's loads of different features on here. So we're going to run through some of the basics and then get into a bit of the detail on the screen and what it can do. First of all, it does come with a table. We're just going to look at some of the accessories. This is the lovely wide table that is kind of included with the machine. You don't actually get in the slide-on accessory box. It is just the table, and then you remove that for the free arm, which is also a good size. Let's pop that back on for now. It's nice and easy to come on and off, it's great. We've got the knee lift attached as well at the moment that I'm going to demonstrate, but let's have a look at the threading as well first of all, because we've got the a really great needle threader on here too, really easy to get going. So up at the top here, it's all numbered and we're just going to follow it around. So round that number 1, follow it through to number 2, and following these arrows down the bottom and then up into 4 and down again. So the threading path's fairly standard. Into number 6, and then we'll see here we've got a number 7, so pop it up into there, and this is the same as the needle threaders that are on the DX series as well. Trim it off there, and then we've got the final lever here. I must not have had that in the correct position, bear with me a sec. Let's just get that down. Is my needle in the highest position? It should be. Yep, there we go. There we are, that's how it should work. Creates that loop out the back for you. Setting the bobbin is also pretty much similar to the DX series again. So it's a drop-in bobbin style, so it's not any bigger than the standard bobbins. It is the standard 15k bobbin that we see in quite a few machines of the Juki range. And so yeah, again we've got a numbered system, just pops in there underneath that first metal part and around number 2 and number 3, and again we've got a trimmer as well to keep that all in place. So if we wanted to bring up the bobbin thread, we can do our needle up and needle down, so we've got all that functionality on here. I have actually got the hover thing set at the moment, so there's all sorts of up and down, but it's really fast actually the way it does move up and down, which is nice. Sometimes there can be a bit of a delay with hover heights, but this is actually really quick. And the knee lift is actually all totally electronic. It's obviously a sensor based system instead of a mechanical system, so I can like kind of raise it up a little bit, all the way, down a bit, down all the way. It's really quite sensitive, so that's nice to use. As you can see, very quick, which is good when you're just wanting to get on and quilt or dress make or bag make. This machine can pretty much handle it all, I'd say. We've got other physical features. The built-in dual feed, that is obviously quite a big pull on this. This is not many machines have got this feature, and I've been testing it out. It's been working really well on kind of quilting fabrics as well. So if I raise up the foot, it's at the back here, so I've got to bring this down. So this foot, any of the feet that have got a bit cut out in the back, you can use this with, but it does actually give you a message on the screen if it's not suitable for a particular stitch. It pops up and says to remove it if it's not suitable for that particular stitch. So we bring this down and it clips into the back down there, and that's it. So that's engaged. With the feet, speaking of feet, we've got a lovely box full of tricks. So all of the ones with the gap in the back you can use with the dual feed, so that includes a patchworking foot, a 1/4 inch foot with a guide, the straight stitch foot, because you can convert this to be a true straight stitch machine, and so they all come with and the standard zigzag as well, and they're all numbered and lettered, so you know exactly which one to be putting on, as the machine does also give you prompts as to which one to use. The other feet that we've got in here are the zipper foot, a blind hemming foot, like a satin stitch foot for decorative stitches, the open toe embroidery, and a overcasting as well. Obviously there isn't a walking foot because we've got this built-in part section, so we don't need the separate walking foot. And then we've got the massive buttonhole foot, which we did touch on when we opened the box in our previous video, so we can have a more detailed look at that as well. You're getting included 4 bobbins in total. I've wound one on and popped it in the machine. Also getting in here a guide that goes into the foot holder really easily. I'll pop that down here. So the guide into the top of the foot holder, and then you just push it in, and then you can move it to wherever you want it to be for that perfect kind of straight line quilting guide. So we can leave that on for now. Let's have a look at the screen. I'm going to put that down, so give my knee a rest. I'm just going to manoeuvre over. We've got a touch pen that comes with it to keep this kind of nice and clean, and you can be also quite precise with the touch pen. The setup is completely different to how we've seen it before. So we've got here on the right hand side all of our stitch styles. There's all different folders, and you just press it to access the different folders, and then you've got a complete visualization. See, that's one stitch you can't use with this down, so let me just bring that up so that I can access all of them for you. There we go. So it gives you that prompt, which is really handy. There's loads of safety features on here for so you won't be able to break a needle, but you just got to tell the machine what you're doing. So that's kind of your folder system. All down this side, you just kind of navigate through them to find exactly what it is you want to do. You can expand it out as well to get a bigger and better idea, and also you've got everything listed up in the top as well, which is you don't normally get with a machine that's got all of that information there, so you can see it all there too. Bring that in. So notice that you've got 2 tabs at the top here. So this selection here with the different folders is very much just for selecting individual stitches. With the second tab here, this is your combination mode, so it has its own section, if you like, its own tab, and then you can go through folders and actually combine stitches together. So it'll give me one of those, and this is also where you can do your lettering as well. So you've got 4 different English fonts and some Japanese characters, and to be able to write on screen. And it's handy because you can opening this out, which is very similar to some other brands that we've seen. And so welcome back. We just had a quick break to delete some stuff off of the memory card, but we're back on track now. So I was just showing you about the lettering and how to combine letters and also designs together to make your own stitches. So once you've got this pane expanded, it really is very easy to see exactly what you're going to be writing. So for example, we can do an F and an N, and then we can get our lowercase along the bottom here, and U, T, T for F note sewing machines, T, T. So it's really easy to see exactly what you've got on there. You've got all your additional characters, all sorts of umlauts and things as well, and that goes for all the fonts. They all come with an upper and a lower case. So yeah, it's really very straightforward. You can then see exactly where you are on screen with your stitching, and kind of scroll through the different letters on using the to scroll through different characters on this section here. And then if you did just want to go back to normal sewing, then you just tap on that tab, go back to what you were doing sewing wise, but this, whatever you have been doing in combination mode, is still there, so you can flick between the two quite easily. So that's kind of the right hand side of the screen. Oh, there is also a saving feature as well, sorry, yes, down here with this underneath the character icon you've got a folder, and so if we touch that, we're actually able to save something. So if it's like a word or something, a greeting that you write quite often, you can put it into a folder. So I've already put something in number 1 earlier when I was practicing, so I'll pop that into number 2, and then recall that whenever you like. And similarly, you can bin things as well from there, so I can open up, that's what I've saved earlier on hello, and then I can say, yeah, I want to bin that. So you can always keep it up to date quite easily. There's no massive menus to go into, it's all there, it's ready to go. And this no at the bottom, just so you know, is it's actually a really handy reference, because I thought, what's no mean? Is it just like a command? But it's actually short for number. So you can type in, if you can see a font on here on your screen, sorry, not on screen, on the lid that you want to be using, you can actually then just type in directly the number of the stitch. Saves you scrolling through all of the actual folders to find it. So if I wanted 366, I could do 366 And there we go, that's added in that stitch. It's popped it in kind of in the middle for me, but I know that it's that one that I've selected, so it's a kind of a quick way to get around instead of searching through the folders, is having that reference chart there, which is quite handy. Okay, so back into the normal sewing mode. So if we move along the screen, we've got some settings here. So this is like a stitch settings that you can do. Let me just get back to kind of a normal stitch. And so we can, we've got pattern elongation, we've got tapering, we can flip the stitch, we've got a darning program built into there as well. So there's lots of things you can do. You've also, if you were to select buttonholes as well, you've got, if I select that one and then go into the settings, I've got buttonhole adjustments here, so I can make it smaller, I can make it wider, for the gap in between, which you've got a lot of control over. Next down there is the needle stop position. So at the touch of a button you can program the machine to stop with the needle up or down. You've also got, it doesn't apply to that one. That's the thing, when you select something, if it doesn't apply to that stitch, then it kind of greys it out, so you can't even see it. So you can only really do settings that apply to the stitch you have selected at that time. So if I select the straight stitch, I can see the second icon down here, the floating foot, which is a really great feature that Juki have had for a number of years now. We can activate that there as well. And we can set that pivot height for when we are going over thicker materials, and it is also the pivot height for here. I had it set quite high at 6, its standard is 2, but I was testing out some particularly thick materials earlier on, and so I had to have the height set a lot higher, but you can adjust that to whatever would work for the particular project that you're working on. And then down there we've got the electronic control for the feed dogs, so whether they are raised or lowered, and that's just a digital switch as well. Everything on here is electronically controlled, which is you know, really smooth operation. No big levers to pull or press. Everything's on the screen. So as we go along, we've got the stitch selection there. So if I select something, we've got that visualization on the screen, which is lovely. You can, if you make adjustments, you can see exactly what it's going to look like, and that's also where you get the foot indicator as well at the top. That's saying to use C, which is the overcasting foot, because that is an overcasting stitch. So pay attention to that if for a particular task. Moving on from there, we've got our stitch width, needle position, stitch width and stitch length, and then also got a bobbin sensor built in on here, but you have to tell it about how much you have on your bobbin. So I can see at the minute, I reckon I've got about 30%. So if I actually increase, if I turn it on, and then I'll be able to increase that to about 30. It'll then warn me when I'm running out, when I'm running low on bobbin. And do I set that? No. I thought it would set it. You can set it to be full. Obviously if you're winding on a full bobbin, you just tell it that you put a fresh bobbin in. There we go. Well, set it to be 100%. I'll have a look at that one and get back to you with some more detailed information on how to set that if you know you've only got a partially wind bobbin. Further on at the other side of the screen, we've got the tension at the top, which is again fully adjustable. It changes depending on what stitch you've got selected as well, which is something you do get in high-end models, and that is constantly being adjusted to suit the stitch that you're doing. You've got here the, actually I'm not entirely sure what exact, because with the arrow up on the other side, that's to do with the oh, that's foot pressure, that's what that one is, sorry, that makes sense, because with the arrow underneath it, it's about the pivot height. So with that one, it must be the actual foot pressure itself. And again, does that adjust? So that seems to be set it to standard, and then it'll be up to you for your different materials whether you wanted to adjust that. One control that's brand new, that I've never seen on a machine before, is the dual feed speed adjustment. So this little foot here with the big jaggedy teeth indicates the additional dual feed, and you can actually make that increase or decrease in speed for your particular project. So for thicker materials, this is going to be very interesting to see how well it can actually avoid that slippage. But it's an additional brand new feature that I've never seen before on a machine, something that we will do some more testing on and find out exactly how useful it can be. You can tell the machine whether you've got twin needles on, you can program the thread cutting to happen at certain points. So that's like whether you want it to do a forwards and backwards stitch or a stitching on the spot for the different needle stop positions. Also using the scissors. So at the minute we haven't got any of these automatic features selected, because you can operate them using the keys, and also the foot control is programmable as well. We've got this double-sided foot control which we saw when we were getting it out of the box. So obviously one side is for our standard speed, and then the other can be programmed for thread cutting or tying off, or both, but we'll look at that now in our settings here. So this is more in-depth machine settings as opposed to just the stitch settings which are on our main screen. If I go to the foot control here, this is where I can program it to do different things or just have it off. So it can do reverse, stitching on the spot, needle up and down, back stitch, raising and lowering the presser foot, or snipping the threads. So we can actually select any of those for it to do what we want it to do. I like it to trim the threads because I know exactly where I am then. Setting completed. Within here there's lots of other information about darning programs, tension, speed, all machine settings that you can do, noises, brightness settings that you might want to, if you want to restore it to factory settings. And it does actually have a firmware section as well, so this machine may be one that we get firmware upgrades for. Actually, if we just have a quick look, do we have... Yeah, we've got the USB port, so it would be a case of if there was anything that needed to be upgraded, then you can actually do a software update on there as well. In the information you've actually got quite a lot of onboard help, how to do winding the bobbin, lots of changing needles, feet, the dual feed function, you know, little pictures on how exactly to engage that. I quite like the fact that the screen's like the light on the dark. It's quite a different look. It feels very high end. It looks really nice. It's really easy to see, very easy to read everything that's on there. A very clear system, and especially with all of these lights as well along the massive 13-inch arm, it's a very clear machine to use. We go back there. Just put on a standard stitch there, and I'll show you how it runs. I'll go on some quilting stuff, some of this quilt sandwich I made earlier, and engage the dual feed. Let's bring that down. So that automatically brought the foot up for me to engage that feed, which is quite handy. So if I was to start here, use my needle to bring my foot all the way down. They always sound louder on camera, but it's really quite nice and quiet. So I've got this set to that hover height at the moment, so as soon as I stop, the foot is up, and means I can move this around as much as I like. And it will automatically lower with you just pressing the presser foot as you've got that pivot set. You don't have to bring the foot down again or use the knee lift, you can just carry on. And if you do want to use the knee lift to bring this all the way up, say if I wanted to trim the thread, and then I can use my knee lift to make it raise all the way, so it's really easy. It's got a massive clearance. You can get pretty thick items underneath this. I can see it being very useful for dressmakers and quilters alike, to be honest. Now I've had it stitch, I thought I'd show you about the straight stitch function on here, because we've got a separate set of feed dogs and a separate needle plate, and this is brand new. We've never seen anything like this before, so I've had a go doing it. I've had a practice. It's actually really easy to get to grips with. So I'll just take off the foot itself because that helps. Actually some room, so you get this tool in the box as well, which is indispensable actually. You just there we go. Take that off, and then you use this tool again. It does advise actually to turn the machine off when doing this, just to or put the lock screen on, just to stop it from you know, you pressing anything by accident. But using this, I'm going to wedge it underneath the front, twist it, and that pops off my needle plate. And then we've got our feed dogs here, and these literally lift up and lift away. So I'll pop that all in that box there. And so then the straight set of feed dogs, you've got a little kind of screw that kind of marries up to this slit in the back of the feed dog here. And so once you've got that on, you just push it down, and then that's it, it's in place. And needle plate, straight stitch needle plate goes back on. And that's it. So if you want to come back around here, James, on the screen, before I press OK, it's actually detected that I've got the straight stitch plate on. So basically it won't let me select anything now that is going to damage anything. So if I say yes, fine, check the presser foot, lovely. So that's now just set to single hole, and we can see that here. So instead of having that wider aperture, it won't let us do anything now. Any stitches that you can't even look at certain things in folders, it just won't let you select them because there's only so many stitches that you can do with the straight stitch on. So if I put the straight stitch foot onto here, just raise that all the way up so I can tighten that up. Lovely, and that's it. So now we're going to get lovely straight stitching with our straight stitch foot, and I can also bring down the, what do they call it, the smart feed, that's what Juki have called it. And now I've got a straight stitch machine, and the results are lovely. Down on here. So I've got my locking button here as well that I can just touch, and then I can hit my thread cutter. Everything on here is kind of speeded up, it feels. It's very responsive. It all happens really quickly, which is nice. And the stitch on there, lovely straight stitch. It's been a pleasure to get to know this morning, actually, trying it out on all sorts of different fabrics and thicknesses of things as well. I'm just saying, shall we get some thicker kind of upholstery style stuff, like curtains, things like that. That's the kind of things you can easily use this machine for. I'll just cut a bit off of here. So I should have had some ready, shouldn't I, really? But just as an example. So we may have the top part of a curtain, and then we may also have some heading tape, and then we might also have just another layer. Now it's pretty thick. This is getting on for, when even squished together, about 5mm thick. So I will actually on here set my hover height to be higher, set that to about to the maximum, to 6 I think. Because then, because if you don't do that, it makes a really weird noise, and so it took me a little while to figure that one out. But if we set that to there, this has got no problem going through that. No worries whatsoever. You can see that the presser foot isn't actually bearing down heavily on the fabric. And I don't know what needle the machines come with, but it's managing absolutely fine. And we can then go down very nice and smoothly, and also back onto something that thick with the same kind of ease. It just does it. And it goes really fast. 1050. Oh, ran out of top thread. That's one thing it doesn't have, is a top thread sensor. But yeah, 1050 stitches per minute is the maximum speed on this machine. So we ran out of thread, so I'm just going to rethread the machine, which means we get to have a look at the needle threader again, so why not? Around the top and down. Oh, remember to put your spool cap on. Always remember to use the appropriate size spool cap for your thread as well. And then into that needle threader. Need to remember to put the needle in the right position. This one's not going to plan, is it? Just make sure it's in the highest. There we go. And then I'm going to pop on the buttonhole foot, because we said we would have a quick look at this as well. The Juki buttonhole foot, it does seem to be the same kind of model that you get with the DX series. So we've got this separate part here that can actually clamp the material in between to ensure an even feed, and that's what makes the Juki buttonhole really nice to use. You don't have to, you can actually take off that bottom section if you'd rather not use it for a certain project. It just kind of clips off the bottom. Kind of just have to pull it off there, so you can keep that bit separate. So yeah, so this clips on like a normal foot does. So I'm looking for that bar there. Lower it on, and then we plug it in to the actual machine. Because once we've actually put our button in the back, which goes into this section here, like a kind of most automatic buttonholers, that's it sends a signal to the machine to say how big it is. So we'll pop that in there, raise that up, and let's have a go on another section of this lovely curtain fabric. There we go. So on screen, I'm going to select, there's my little stylus. We've got a really good range of buttonholes here actually, something for every occasion, let's say. But one of the, I don't know, so some of these are for stretch. Let's use one of the more standard, like chunky keyhole ones. And this is when in our settings we can then have a look at this bit here, so we can set it to be narrow, wide or extra wide as for the stitch width on there as well. For the gap, let's go for a medium sized one. Okay, feed dogs are engaged, so then it'll just be a case of us going. Feed on this is lovely, even without that bottom section. Perfect, so we've got a really nice wide aperture in there for maybe being able to fit a much chunkier button, like for coats and things like that. This buttonhole is lovely. So that's about all we've got time for today. If you've got any more questions on this machine though, I know there are a couple of things we might not have quite touched on yet, but we will go into the ruler work and everything maybe in a separate video, so do look out for that, because it's quite a separate task. But because it does come with the ruler foot as well, so it really does come with everything for everybody really. Yeah, let us know if there's anything else you want to know about this machine, whether you need some more detail on the screen, or whether it's on the machine itself, or the all-important threading. But yes, thanks for watching, and I hope that you've got something out of the video, and do let us know if there's anything else that we can show you. And obviously it's here ready to demonstrate in store as well, so if you are local-ish to Birmingham, don't forget to pop by and we're happy to show you. Speak to you soon, and bye for now.